friends, and welcome to another episode of the Woldenburn podcast. My name is Emily, and I'm coming to you today from Tennessee, where I live with my husband and our beautiful little baby boy. Today is a very cold but lovely, overcast, cozy sort of a day. I actually just finished filming a video for my book channel, and now I am trying to quickly film another podcast episode. Baby Tam is napping beautifully this morning. It's about 8:40, and I ended up sleeping pretty well last night, so I'm trying to get some videos done while he's sleeping. I fully expect him to wake up any time now, so I'll probably have to pause and go get him. But today I have a decent amount of knitting to talk to you about. I have managed to squeeze in some more here and there. And then I have a little bit of an acquisition. I have a really fun knitting plan to talk about, a project that I want to cast on very soon. And then we'll really briefly touch on what books I've been reading recently. It's been a lot of Louis L'Amour. And then maybe a little bit of a general life update, and that'll be the episode for today. So let's just get right into the knitting. First off, if you watched my last video, which was kind of my knitting goals for 2023, I talked about how I wasn't sure whether or not I wanted to finish the Tegna sweater that I was working on, which is a pattern by Caitlin Hunter. Well, let me show you. I'm still working away on it. I picked it up, I hadn't touched it in ages, but I realized that I was just kind of wanting something that was really simple and mindless, just knitting. And so I picked it up and knit a bit more on it. This beautiful yarn is something that I got in a knit crate several years ago, probably like 6 or 7 years ago. And it is, I think it's Fleece Artist Tree Wool, and I don't have the label with me, but it's a really interesting blend of wool, and then I think it's got some tinsel in it. And I've had it in my stash for 6-7 years or whatever, and I never got rid of it because I really like the color, and it's a very interesting yarn. It's kind of different. And so then several months ago I decided to try and see if I could squeeze a Tegna sweater out of it, and we're gonna see how it goes. I'm a little bit worried that I'm going to run out of the yarn, because I only have the 2 skeins, and I know that the Tegna is technically supposed to be pretty cropped, but especially with my bust size and everything with breastfeeding, I don't want to make it super cropped because I don't think I would wear it. So I'm hoping to actually put a bit more length into it. So I realized what I will probably try and do is I will knit as much as I can in this yarn, and then I may see if I can find like a navy blue, and then just kind of either fade into the navy blue or just finish off like the top portion with a navy blue yarn. So that's kind of my plan with this. I know I mentioned that I wasn't sure how many just plain stockinette fingering weight sweaters I wanted to make for this year, and that still holds true. I'm not 100% sure. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and finish this one and then see how I feel about it, because the reality is I've had this yarn sitting on my stash for way too long, and I've already done all of the lace, which was a pain. If you don't remember, I started this just before baby was born, and I had to cast it on like 3 times because somehow my stitches kept getting twisted, and I do not know how. I've never had an issue with it before, but it was so frustrating because I wouldn't realize it until I was 10, 15 rows into the lace, and then because there were so many stitches, and the way that it was on my needles, I wouldn't realize it until I had done hours of work, and so I had to rip it out completely and redo it, and it was a hassle. So since I've already done that whole section, I'm going to try and see and get as much of this done as I can. Holly of Mystery Mouse Knitting Podcast, she put a comment on my last video saying that I could technically just knit this in a DK weight yarn and use the numbers for a smaller size, and I might do that depending upon how much I like this. I might try that because I would love to have more of a wintry version. This one I have a feeling with the yarn and everything it's probably going to be a more spring, fall, or like transition season type of a top. But yeah, so I have worked a decent bit more on it. It's been sitting in my knitting basket thing untouched for ages, but yeah, I just had a whim and randomly picked it up and started working on it again. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. The other thing, well no, I'll talk about that in a minute when I talk about my knitting plans. I have another new cast on that I started. For those of you that have been around for a while, you may remember this garter stitch brown blanket that I knit out of Lion brand Heartland yarn. And this was something that I made, we actually got the yarn and the needles on our honeymoon, and I let Micah pick out the yarn color and everything. And it took me a really, really long time. Let me stand up and try and show you. It's a good sized blanket. So yeah, you know, there's not much to see. It's just miles and miles of garter stitch, but it's a pretty big blanket. And so I knit this, and we have ended up using it so much. It's probably our most used other blanket. As you can see, it's kind of, well, you can't see it super well on the camera. It's something a little rough. It's very pilly and got like fuzz all over it, but it is just so soft and squishy and comfy, and we love it. It has stretched so much. And I don't know if it's just a combination of if it's the yarn or if it's the garter stitch or if it's a combination of the two. I'm not sure, but it has definitely grown. So for Christmas of 2021, I knit Micah's grandmother a shawl out of some blue Lion brand Heartland yarn. I just really like the Heartland yarn. I was planning to try and make a sweater out of it, but I'm kind of rethinking that now that using the leftovers of that blue Heartland yarn, I have cast on a blanket for baby Tam. And you might be thinking, Emily, that is really tiny. There's no way that that would be the right size of a blanket. I kid you not. I went through and counted out the stitches on this blanket, and I cast on about 85 stitches, and I counted it out, and it was something like this much. This yarn grows like nobody's business. It stretches like crazy. So when I was calculating out the number of stitches and stuff for this, I had that thought where I realized, oh, I don't know that I would want that to happen in a sweater, where it would start off the right size and it would just become massive. So I would probably stick to making like shawls or blankets out of this yarn, but I really like it. It's so cozy. Or maybe I'll make like a cardigan or something that's designed to be oversized. I definitely would not try to make something fitted out of it because, yeah, it grows. Because I was going through and I was like, okay, let me figure out how many stitches I need to do. And now that I've worked on it a bit, it looks like it's such a small, it looks so tiny. But I'm using the exact same needles, the exact same yarn. It's gonna grow. It's gonna grow. So I went ahead and I had one partial skein and one whole skein of this Heartland yarn. I don't remember what the colorway is. Oh, I think this is the ball band. It's the colorway Olympic. So I have an entire skein and then a partial skein, and I went ahead and just caked it up, even though it normally comes in the whatever standard big box store ball things. I went ahead and caked it up because I thought to myself, this would be a lot easier, and I already had my ball winder out, so I just wound it up. But yeah, so I'm using, I think this is a US size 7 needle, which I believe, yeah, it's a 4.5 millimeter, so that's a 7, right? Yes. Ha. I'm slowly starting to memorize the millimeter equivalents. Yeah, so, and these are just cheap needles from Michael's, I think. I think that's where we ended up going to get the yarn and needles. It was just Michael's. Yeah, so there is that project, and I'm really loving that. Again, I was just in the mood for a lot of garter stitch, and I'm in no rush to get it done. It'll get done when it gets done, and I'm just gonna knit, 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 and it will be lovely. So that is a new cast on, and then I have managed to put some work in on the socks that I am knitting for Micah. I've managed to do some work on that, and then I've also managed, oh my goodness, I've got some threads growing on my canvas bag here. And then I've managed to put in a decent amount of work on the test knit that I'm doing for Hannah of Hannah G Knits. I actually need to get this done in the next couple of days. So I can't remember where exactly I was on my last podcast. I think I was still working on the ribbing. I finished the ribbing, and I have done a cable repeat with this yarn, unfortunately, because it's dark and it is more acrylics, so it doesn't really show the cables quite as much as I would like it to. But I was using stash yarn, and I am going to try and block it a little bit. I know with acrylic yarn, blocking doesn't do all that much, but I'm going to try anyway. But I've already started on the decreases. This is a crazy thing with making baby hats, is that they're so tiny. They go so quickly. But yeah, so I am working away on this. I'm currently knitting it on some US size 6 or 4.4 millimeter needles, not 4 millimeters. And these are just some clover bamboo needles that I have. And the yarn that I'm using is the Yarn Bee Soft and Sleek Low Pill Fiber from Hobby Lobby. Actually, I have the ball band, or the ball through. Ta-da! And this is in the colorway Dark Heather Gray. Yeah. So this pattern is still in testing. It doesn't have an official pattern name just yet. I actually need to get it done because it's due by the beginning of February, and it is January 26th. So I need to get a wiggle on with that. It's just one of those projects that's a little bit harder because I have to look at the chart for where I am to finish it off. And I know that if I just sit down and work on it, it'll take maybe like 30 minutes, but sleep deprivation and all that stuff, baby, like, it just takes a little bit longer, which is one of the things that I will say. If you are thinking about pattern testing for somebody, sign up for Hannah's newsletter because she is so generous with her pattern testing timelines. I have come to realize, after having test knit for her and test knit for, I can't remember, a couple other people, and they give generous, realistic, long, I was trying to think, I was thinking I had the baby, but I don't think so. Long testing time frames, because there's been a few, I have signed up for a few different test knitting list, emails, whatever. And there've been a few people that are like, yeah, I have this full-on sweater, like DK weight sweater, long sleeves, whatever, done in 4 weeks. And I don't know, that's just seems so ridiculous to me, so unrealistic, and so much pressure to put on test knitters who are spending their time and energy knitting through this pattern. And yes, technically they're getting a pattern for free, but they are doing a bunch of work for the designer. So I just have very much grown to appreciate the people that take it into consideration and give lengthy testing periods. It just, or people who want an entire pair of socks done in like 2 weeks. It's not gonna happen. So, I will say, if you've never test knit before and you have children in your life, whether they're your own or nieces, nephews, friends, children, and you would like to get into test knitting, I highly recommend you sign up for Hannah's test knitting newsletter, her newsletter, not her test knitting, her newsletter, because she's lovely. She's a wonderful designer. Her patterns are just brilliant. She has a fantastic size range for her children's patterns, and I love all of her designs, and she gives very realistic test knitting timelines. So, highly recommend. Moving on. The last sort of active project that I have are the socks that I am knitting for Micah. I have not touched the other pair of socks that I'm knitting for him. I have just been working on these. And these are just a basic shorty sock pattern. I don't trust my ears. I'm hard of hearing. I have some mild to moderate hearing loss, and so I do not trust myself that I'm not going to hear him when he cries. So I usually check on him a lot when he's sleeping by himself, just to make sure. But anyway, this is just my basic shorty sock. I do 56 stitches on US size 1. I'm knitting this in the Fiberco Amble, I think is what it is, which is a beautiful, beautiful yarn. I really, really like it. And I am knitting this on my Leica, I looked up how to pronounce this and I forgot. Leica? Something. US size 1 needles, and I'm doing it magic loop, which is not normal for me. Normally I'm DPNs all the way, but I'm trying out different needles, and you can't see because I just started doing it, but I used to watch Amy of Noble Character Crafts. I used to watch her podcast years ago, and she recently she knew about my old podcast, and so she recently subscribed and whatnot. I'd seen somebody talking about her again. I was like, oh yeah, I completely forgot about her podcast and whatnot. Anyway, so I was watching her most recent podcast episode, and she was talking about how when she knits her socks for the last like 20-30 rows of the foot, on the bottom of the foot she'll do a knit one slip one every other row for the whole bottom, and like I said, you can't really see it at all. Sort of. I've only done like 2 rows of it. And she said that she did that as an extra reinforcement for the balls of her feet so that they didn't get holes immediately. And I was actually knitting on this while I was watching her podcast, and I immediately started adding that into the sock, because that is one of the main places that Micah will wear holes in his socks. And I really want to see if that will help reinforce the bottom of the foot and make it so that he doesn't wear holes in his socks as quickly, because that would be amazing. So I have decided to do that. I've only done like 2 or 3 rows at this point, but I will report back on how I like it and how it looks and how it does and whatnot. But I think that that's so smart. It's such a clever little tip, because it basically just kind of puts a almost double layer of yarn on the bottom of your foot in that area, and I really like that. So I'm trying it out. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, so that is all of the actively working on whips. I do have a knitting plans that I'm planning to cast it on either today or tomorrow, like imminently. I have the yarn all ready to go. I decided to frog my Corbell sweater that I had been working on. It just had been going on for too long. I also realized that my office chair is broken, and it does not stay up. It sinks down all the time, so I just realized that I'd sunk down. I decided to frog the Corbell sweater, which is a pattern by Claire Walls. I had been knitting on it. I think I cast it on over a year ago, and it sat and dwindled and dwindled, and then, or not dwindled, it just sat there. and I didn't work on it for months, and then I picked it up and worked on it for a bit, and then didn't touch it again for ages, and I just realized that it was too piecemeal. It was kind of stressing me out to try and think about trying to figure out where I was in the pattern and what I was supposed to be doing next. So I decided to frog it, and I did. So I frogged the corbel sweater, and I went ahead and frogged my So Faded sweater. I am planning to use the yarn from my So Faded sweater to make a shawl, most likely. And this yarn, this is the yarn from my corbel sweater, which is some of my hand-dyed yarn. It's on a DK weight base and a 75-25 superwash merino nylon blend. I'm planning to use this yarn and combine it with this yarn, which is absolutely stunning. Look at this, look at this. It's gorgeous. I love it so much. And knit a festival sweater by Petite Knit for myself. I'm so excited about it. This yarn is extra special because it is from Holly of Mystery Mouse Knitting Podcast and the Mystery Mouse Yarn Co. And this is a sock set that I purchased from her in her Black Friday sale, and it is the Freudian Cogs sock set, and I am not using it for socks, obviously. I am planning to hold this yarn, which is the fingering weight, double to do the contrast for the festival sweater, and I'll pop a picture up here so that you can see what it looks like, and I think it's just going to look so lovely together. I'm really excited. It was a lot of work to completely frog the sweater because not only did I have the corbel sweater and this yarn has gone through so many iterations. I had another sweater that I had knit out of it, and I didn't like how it had turned out. It was kind of too short, and it was the wrong yarn for the pattern, and it just did not look good. So I had an entire sweater to frog, and then part of the corbel sweater to frog. So that, and then I had the fingering weight So Faded sweater to frog. It was a lot of frogging. So it was a lot of work to get that all done. And then I soaked the yarn so that it would kind of relax and not be all crinkled up. And but I'm hoping to cast this on today or tomorrow because I want the sweater so badly. And the other thing too that I realized is that I have not actually worked on a project for myself, like properly worked on a project for myself in a long time. I know I have the Tenya, but that one I've only just picked up a little bit and done sort of sporadically. But I've been knitting socks for Micah. I'm making a toy for baby Tam. I'm making a blanket for baby Tam. Like, I've been doing all these projects for other people, and I really, really want to make like a sweater for myself. Something for me. So that is the plan, and I'm very excited about it. And now I'm going to take a quick break before we jump into acquisitions. I'm just going to go run check on baby Tam, make sure he's doing okay. Yeah, you know, ears. Anyway, I'll be right back. I went in there and he was just laying on the bed kicking his legs around. Wide awake, just chilling. He did so well today. He napped. He's been sleeping for a good couple of hours, so that's fantastic. Yes, you did so good, honey. Anyway, now, hi. Hi, Peanut. Let's talk about some acquisitions. I have a couple things. One of them was a gift, and then one of them was one that I purchased for myself. First off, another project that I'm hoping to get to pretty soon is, I'll pop a picture up here, a elephant by, I don't remember the lady's name, but I think her brand name is like Mary Jane's Tea Room. She has a ton of beautiful, beautiful little children's toy patterns, and I love all of them. And I noticed that she was doing, I found out that she was doing a sale on her patterns, so I bought the elephant pattern, and I'm hoping to cast that on again pretty soon here. And my mother-in-law took my sister-in-law and I to the local yarn store. They have a lot of other things that they do at the yarn store other than just yarn, so we all just kind of went there, even though neither of them were much into the knitting yarny world, if you will. And she got me some more yarn. So I picked out these 3 colors, which are going to be, this is going to be the elephant's body. If it'll focus, I don't think it's going to focus on that, and I only have one hand. So gray, elephant's body, brown for, I think it's the bottom of the boots, and then a tan for the boots that the elephant wears. And like I said, I'll have a picture up there so you can see it. And this is the Kraemer yarns. It is 30% US wool, merino, and 70% acrylic. So I think it's going to be excellent for a baby toy because it's fairly soft, because it's got the acrylic, but then it's also got the wool that'll kind of, what are you doing? That will kind of help with the like memory and whatnot of the yarn. Yes, you have already drooled on the yarn. Good job, baby. Let me see. I'm gonna see if I can put him down on the floor. Just so I can finish up filming. Zoop! Hi, little man. You're a little happy boy. Yeah. Alright, there's no telling what you might hear now. He's on the floor. And then the other thing that I purchased, I have mentioned before the Flax and Fleece, which is the yarn shop in Wisconsin that my husband and I went to when we were in Wisconsin in September after baby Tam was born for my husband's friend's wedding. And I signed up for their newsletter. I loved their shop, so I get their newsletters. And they are also the place where I was able to purchase the Leica needles, and when we were there, they were clearancing out of these needles, the Leica needles, and so I was able to get these for about $4 a piece, which was absolutely lovely because I was able to get 3 sets for about the same price as one needle normally cost, and then they further discounted their needles. So I ordered some online, and even with shipping I was able to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pairs of needles for about the same price as 2 pairs of Leica needles normally are. So we're just going to really quickly go through these. Here we are. I got a bunch of the 12-inch knitting needles, which I'm very curious to try out on my next sort of like sleeve of a sweater and see how it works. So I've got the US size 3, 4, 5, and 6 in the 12 inches, and they were all like $2 something a piece, so they're really, really cheap. There might be a few of the 12-inch ones left, so I will try and link it down below. Again, they're clearancing out of them, so there's a lot of limitations as far as what sizes are left. But I will link the Flax and Fleece website down below. And then I also was able to get a US size 0, a US size 2.5, and a US size 10.5 on 32-inch cables. And when I was there before, I had gotten a US 1, 1.5, and 2 on the 32-inch cables. So now I have so many knitting needles. And I'm really, really thrilled to have this because Mike was actually asking me, he was like, this is not in any way a why did you buy stuff. It's more of just because he doesn't understand how knitting works. And he was just like, why do you need all the different sizes of needles? Like, technically, if you have some, shouldn't you be set and good to go? And I was like, well, it's because some projects take one size of needle, some take the other size of needle, then if you don't have an interchangeable knitting needle set, blah, blah, blah. And also the thing is, too, is with the 12-inch knitting needles, you don't always, the tips on the interchangeable knitting needle sets aren't always short enough to make it work, and interchangeable knitting needle sets very rarely, I don't know that I've ever seen them have, maybe the Tiagu like sock set that you can get has it, but they never have the below a US size 3. And so I'm really, really happy to have a 0 up to 2.5 knitting needles all on circulars. So that was my very fun acquisition. I was thrilled to A, be able to support a small yarn shop that I really liked, and B, be able to buy a bunch of fairly expensive knitting needles for very, very frugally. Which is something Stephanie of Texas Peach Knits has it, where she talks about her frugal buy of the week. And I was going to say, this is my frugal recommendation, is that if you're traveling and there's a yarn shop that you really love and they have an option for online shopping, maybe see if you can sign up for their newsletter or just keep tabs on their website, because even if your local yarn shop isn't clearancing out something, another yarn shop might, and you may be able to find them find tools, yarn, whatever, very inexpensively, versus, you know, even I couldn't find something that cheap on like Amazon or anything. So that's my frugal recommendation for the week. Yeah, I think that is all of the crafty stuff I have to talk about today. I've done a little bit of sewing, not too much. You might be able to see I have this dress that I'm working on. I've done a little bit more on that. I still have to finish up the sleeves on it. And then I've worked a little bit on my other skirt. But yeah, that is all the creative, crafty stuff that I have to talk about. Except for one thing. Let me pull this back out. I wasn't sure if I was going to talk about it, but I'm so excited to be able to have it that I'll talk about it just quickly. Some of you might remember a few podcast episodes ago I was talking about that I wanted to make the Style Art Montana dress, and I was making it out of this beautiful patchwork fabric that I had gotten from Hobby Lobby. I tried making that dress. I had made some changes to the pattern. I don't remember exactly what I did. Yeah? And it looked terrible. I did not like how it turned out, and I was still pregnant at the time, and it didn't work right, and so then I didn't have enough of the fabric left to recut out the bodice. The bodice was the issue with my bust size and everything. And so I was going to do a mishmash, and I cut out a different bodice in a different fabric and tried to make that work, and it didn't fit my bust size, I'm telling you. It's been a little bit rough on the sewing front because I feel like I'm having to completely relearn how to fit my body, which is so frustrating after having spent, you know, 10-ish years really honing in and figuring out how to fit patterns to my body, that I almost feel like I'm having to start over from zero, which is really frustrating. But I was in Hobby Lobby and I found some more of this fabric, and I am so happy because I love it. I love this fabric so much. It's so lovely. And I thought that Hobby Lobby had completely sold out of it and that it was, you know, gone for forever. And so I had this beautiful fabric that I couldn't use, and I was really sad. But then I was walking through the store and I found it, and I'm so happy. I bought just another 1.5 yards just to cut out a new bodice, and I'm gonna wait and like really try and figure out some fitting and whatnot and see if I can figure it out before I cut into this, because I would love to have a really cute springy dress out of this. It would make me so happy. So that was my happy find of this last week. That is all the creative stuff. Book talk, life update. Books, I've still been reading a lot of Louis L'Amour. I really, really like Louis L'Amour. He's an excellent, excellent author, and I really enjoyed his books, and I'm still on the Louis L'Amour kick, which will probably stick around for a couple more books, and then I am planning to, like I mentioned, I just finished filming a book video for my booktube channel, and I'm planning to be trying to read through the Anne of Green Gables series this year, which I've never read all the way through. And I've got Middlemarch, and then I've got another book series that I'm hoping to read through. No strict deadline. At some point I want to get to those. And then I also have, let me look on here, I have Lakeshire Park by Megan Walker, which is a reread for me. It's what is classified as a proper romance. I love a good romance book. And I found out a couple years ago that there's this whole genre of maybe not necessarily just Christian romances, but they're classified as proper romances, where they're clean, they're usually sweet, wholesome, lovely books. And so I read Lakeshire Park, I think in 2021, and I was like, you know what, I want to reread it. So I think I'm going to start reading that sometime soon here, when I get tired of Louis L'Amour. Yeah, that's not going to happen. And then I have a couple other books on my bookshelf that I haven't read yet that I would really like to read. But yeah, so that's kind of all that there is to talk about on the reading front. Hey monkey, what you doing? Life stuff. We haven't been up to too much. We're all doing well. We're all back to being healthy and normal, which is so nice. Baby Tam is growing by leaps and bounds. He's just seems to be setting off a whole... Hey you, did you lose your toy? Come here. Ugh. He's kind of hitting that stage. He's almost 6 months old, and so he's hitting that stage where he's just growing so quickly. He's been going through some growth spurts, and then he's also just kind of, he's getting so much more vocal and adorable. He's learning how to like spit bubbles. And he's been doing this thing where when he wants to get my attention or he wants me to pick him up or whatever, he'll go it's so funny. It's so cute because like I'll look over at him and he'll like be on the couch or something where I've propped him up so I can run and grab something, and he'll just be like yeah, that's what you do. You're a little goober child. He's been growing out of like all of his 3 to 6 month clothes, and all of a sudden, like in 1 week, he's been growing out of a bunch of stuff. So I had to try and find some of the next size up for him. But yeah, so he's doing really well. Getting big, healthy, strong, all that good stuff. Micah's doing well. Everything's going well at his work. I'm doing well. I've had a few moments here and there where it's just been stressful and a lot, and I'm struggling a little bit with the whole like clothing and trying to dress myself and trying to make things for myself and not spend a bunch of money on buying clothes for myself. And it's hard sometimes. Not gonna lie, that it's a little rough. And then add that with the sleep deprivation and whatnot. It's not a fun time. But we're getting there. It's all part of the process, and I expected it to some degree, also didn't expect it to some degree. I didn't expect to have issues with trying to dress myself postpartum and whatnot. I don't know why. I think part of it was I was a little bit arrogant. I was like, oh, I can sew. It's fine. I'll just sew myself new clothes and it'll be all good. But then the whole thing with like my body has just changed. It hasn't changed that drastically. It's just like my bust size is different, and like my hips are different. My waist is still thicker. Because your body changes when you have a baby. Like it just happens. And in my ignorance, I was just like, oh, it'll be fine. I'll just make myself sew. It hasn't worked out that well because stinker child here has not made it easy to do any sewing whatsoever. And then the few bits and pieces of sewing that I've been able to do have kind of turned into flops, which really was very discouraging. So it's just been a little bit sad. And the problem is like buying clothes in general, oh my goodness, I very rarely buy brand new clothing. It's either I make it for myself or I go to the thrift store and buy it. And the problem with doing that is that a lot of like nursing friendly or breastfeeding friendly clothing, like you're not really going to find that in the thrift store. It's not very common. Clothing is expensive. Oh my goodness. So on Instagram, it'll send me ads for cloth diapers and maternity clothes and nursing breastfeeding friendly clothes, and I've looked at a few of them because some of them look really nice. They're like dresses or tops or whatever that I think, oh, that would be really, really nice, and then it just ends up being like $80 for one dress. And in my head, I'm just like, I could get fabric for like 4 dresses for that price. If not more. Probably like 5 or 6 dresses, if we're honest, because I only ever buy fabric on sale. And so it's so discouraging because I'll think, oh, okay, to help with me mentally, emotionally, and whatnot, I'll go and buy a couple of things. And then it's like $150 for like 2 pieces of clothing. And I just can't do it. So that's been a little bit of a struggle, if I'm honest. That's kind of been the rough part here. And then the other thing is meal planning. I don't understand. Any of you that are mothers, if you have any tips or recommendations for sort of meal planning, I don't know why it is such a struggle for me and why it is so difficult, but it is. And I feel like I've tried everything and it hasn't worked. I know I haven't tried everything. It's just, I don't know what it is about my brain that I just can't grasp and seem to do it. So if you are a mother with children, young children, or you are a mother that has had young children, if you have any tips and recommendations for meal planning, food, whatnot, favorite recipes, best cookbooks ever, I would love it if you left a comment down below because, man, I struggle with that so much. And I'm really trying to be better about it because I want to be a good wife, I want to be a good mother, I want to have this all like down, I want to be a good homemaker. That's my job. I want to succeed at it, and some days it's really, really hard. But like I tell Micah, this is my learning phase. We've got one little baby, and so hopefully by the time the next 2, 3, 4, however many children we have, by the time those next babies come along, I'll have a lot of this down and figured out. So this is my learning phase. And I know motherhood in general, like the whole thing is just a learning phase, but this is my initiation learning phase. But yeah, so that's kind of what's been up recently, just some of the struggles that I go through, but I've been doing pretty well. I've been trying to, when I can, go out and take walks. It's been kind of cold, so I can't always do it every day, but I am part of Anna's Knit Club, or I'm trying to participate more this year, and her challenge for January and then throughout the year is her daily dedication challenge, where you read the Bible, listen to the Bible, something to do with the Bible, and you pair it up with a craft project. I haven't been able to pair it up with a craft project, but I'm trying to pair it up with going for a walk, or just listening to it during the day. I'm listening to Father Mike's Bible in a Year podcast. It was really funny because I started following a couple of different Catholic ladies on Instagram, and so then Instagram was like, oh, you're interested in this, and it started recommending me all like this different Catholic stuff, which I have no complaints about. I would far rather see those sorts of ads than the other weird ads that you can see. And so I kept seeing the ads for the Father Mike's podcast, and then Anna Knitter put out her thing saying that this is the prompt for January and her daily dedication 2023, and so I joined her Telegram group for her Anna's Knit Club, and a few different people in there were talking about Father Mike and how they were listening to his Catechism in the Year or the Bible in the Year, and I thought to myself, let's check it out. Let's see what this is about. Why not? It's not going to hurt anything. And I've really been enjoying it. It's been really, really nice. And yeah, I really like it. I am way behind. I didn't start until probably a week and a half, 2 weeks into the new year. So I'm only like 13 days into the podcast, but I'm going to slowly try and catch back up throughout the year. I'm not too concerned about it. And it hasn't been every single day, but what I would do is I would have baby Tam in the baby carrier, and I would put my headphones in, and I'd go for a walk, and I'd just listen to the podcast while I was walking. And yeah, I've been very much enjoying it. It's been really nice to kind of hear the Bible kind of read to me, and then Father Michael would kind of talk about it afterwards, and it's nice. I've been exposed to the Bible my entire life, and so sometimes it can feel sort of boring and dry and uninteresting because it's same old, same old. I've heard these stories, read this part like a million times. At one point, I forced myself to read the entire Bible, and it was less than a week. I read the entire thing. So I kind of burnt myself out to a degree with the Bible. And so in the last probably 5-6 years, I have not been very consistent about reading it at all whatsoever. For most of that time, I didn't even have my own Bible. Well, not most of that time. In the last like 4 years, I had a Bible, but it was kind of had a bunch of like kind of bad memories and stuff attached to it from when I was living in Virginia, and so I got rid of it because I was like, you know what, I don't want to have, I got rid of a bunch of stuff that kind of had bad memories attached to it. I was just like, I don't want to think these sad, depressing thoughts every time I look at this particular object. This object is not worth that much if it's going to have that sort of an impact upon me mentally and emotionally. Let's get rid of it. So I haven't had a personal Bible for years. And so for my birthday, I ended up getting one off of Amazon. I had been trying for the last year to find a King James Version Bible that did not have the words of Christ in red. I don't know what it is, but that just annoys me. I want all of my text to all be black, or all be the same color. And apparently that's not really a thing. If you know of one, I would love to know. Because I really wanted to get the King James Bible because it would be poetic, and it's a different translation of the Bible than what I typically read, and so I was kind of hoping that it would sort of, I don't know, enable me to look at it in a new way. But honestly, this Bible in a Year podcast has really been helping me be able to do that. And I've already had a few different things where I've had kind of just some different realizations like, oh, I never looked at it in that way before. So yeah, I've been really enjoying it. It has been very, very nice. It's something that, because I didn't have a Bible and wasn't reading a Bible consistently, that I've had a decent amount of guilt about it. And so it's nice. I'm happy to be able to go through that. And again, I'm not able to do it every single day, and I can't commit to doing it while I'm working on a specific project. So I'm half following Anna's prompt, if you will. But I think that it's a lovely thing to do, and I'm gonna try to keep doing it throughout 2023. Even if I don't get it done in a year, like, that's okay. Just do it when I can. But yeah, anyway, that was a whole tangent that I wasn't planning to talk about, but I guess that's part of the life update. But yeah, so I hope that you have enjoyed this video. If you have, I would love it if you'd like and subscribe for more content like this. I'm hoping to do a couple of probably like more vlog style videos, some sewing stuff, kind of maybe talking a little bit more about what I'm trying to do to overcome some of these sewing blocks and actually get some stuff to fit me. Yeah, random lifestyle vlogs. I've talked about this before. But I hope that you have all had a really, really lovely January. I'm very excited to see what I'm able to get up to creatively in February. I'm really looking forward to Valentine's Day. I love Valentine's Day. Just purely because it's chocolate and pink and red and hearts, and I'm all about those things. It seems like such a girly holiday to me, and I enjoy it. We never do anything really that special for it, but it's fun. So anyway, I'm gonna end things here before I ramble on for another half hour. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very soon on the next one. Bye!